Hello and welcome to LabGab, a live stream variety show that showcases events, destinations, and different talents across Second Life. I'm your host, Strawberry Linden, and today on our show we have the founder of Virtual Ability, Gentle Erin, and distinguished professor in the clinical PsyD program in SF, Dr. Rhoda Olkin. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you. Welcome.
It's nice to be here.
It's great to have you guys. I'm so excited to learn all about the stuff that's going to be happening this weekend. So, Gentle, let's start with you. You've been a long-time Second Life resident. How and why did you start Virtual Ability, and can you tell us more about it?
Well, about a dozen years ago, some friends and I, who were not very technically inclined, but had met on a website for people with disabilities, said that we thought there would be more. There could be more, and so one of us, the most technically inclined, not me, did some exploring, found Second Life, invited the others of us in, and we set up a little community here. And we were actually assisted by the librarians, who are a fabulous community in Second Life. They let us have a little space on Edu Island.
Oh, that's really nice. I didn't know about that. So I know every year you've been doing a conference, and I believe tomorrow is your ninth annual International Disability Rights Affirmation Conference. That's a big mouthful. Well, we can call it IDRAC. Is that how you what you guys call it?
Yeah, I
And
guess so. It's hard to pronounce.
yeah, and Dr. Rhoda Olkin will be one of the presenters there. I'm going to ask her about that in just a minute, but can you tell us more about the conference? Who typically attends, and is it open to everybody?
Yes, this is actually a professional conference that is free, which is unusual for professional conferences,
Yeah.
and open to the general public, which is also unusual for professional conferences. So anyone can attend who's in Second Life, and you can even see it live streamed, so you don't even have to be in Second Life. But the idea is to bring professionals to the point where people who are not professionals can interact with them and learn from them.
That's amazing. So I do want to point out to the viewers, if they look in the description of the video, there is a link to the destination guide for the conference. So they can actually go there now, get more information, and then visit tomorrow. And also, I don't know if I put the link yet, but I will later, to your YouTube channel. It's just called Virtual Ability. They can search for it on YouTube and watch the live streams. I believe it's going to be live streamed on your YouTube channel. Is that
Yes,
okay?
on,
Great.
on our on Virtual Abilities YouTube.
Perfect. I'll put a link to it right after the show. So, Dr.
Thank you.
Oken, I want to ask about your presentation tomorrow, but before I actually get into that, some people in our audience might not understand what a microaggression is. So, can you give us some examples of how members of the disabled community might be on the receiving end of microaggressions?
Yes, microaggressions is a term that was coined in the late 90s, but it didn't really come into usage popularly until about 2010. And it's a very well-known term in psychology, but average people don't always know what it means. But when I explain examples, everybody goes, "Oh, aha, I've experienced that." So, for example, one of our interviewees in a study I'm going to describe tomorrow was a little person, and she talked about how she can't go a week without a stranger coming up and lifting her up.
Oh my
That's a
goodness.
microaggression.
Right.
If I'm in my wheelchair and somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to give you a speeding ticket," that's a microaggression. So the definition is that it's some kind of slight or insult or comment that's purely about your minority status, and it's hostile or derogatory or insulting in some way. And what these microaggressions serve to do is remind you that the other person is seeing you purely as a person with a disability, as if you have no other attributes. And
Right.
they're commenting on that.
Right. Okay, so I believe your presentation is going to touch on that tomorrow at the conference. Your presentation is titled "Women with Disabilities: Experiences of Microaggressions." Can you give us like an advanced preview of what you will be discussing? For example, I know that you recently conducted a study and you'll be sharing some findings at the conference. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So we're only the third study on microaggressions against people with disabilities, which is interesting in and of itself because there are really hundreds of articles about microaggressions against other minority statuses, but nobody had done any studies about microaggressions and people with disabilities. So we were the third one, and we were particularly interested in whether women with disabilities had experiences of microaggressions that might be a little bit different than men with microaggressions. And so we did both written surveys and focus groups with 30 women who might be dual identities or triple identities, minority identities, and we just asked them about various experiences with microaggressions. And the findings were very interesting in that we found two microaggressions that we think are much more specific to women with disabilities than men with disabilities. And I'll be sharing that tomorrow afternoon.
That's interesting. I'm really interested in learning more about that. How did you get interested in this topic?
Well, my first day of graduate school, our professor asked, "What would you like to be when you grow up?" And I said that my goal was to make the world a better place for people with disabilities. And so, in some ways, this is a natural outgrowth of that overriding interest. In clinical psychology, disability has been relegated to a subspecialty called rehab psych, which is more focused on inpatient and acute injury at the time of injury. But general clinical psychology has not really dealt with disability very much. And so I see my role as bringing together the field of disability studies and clinical psychology so that clinicians are trained to work with people with disabilities in a more general way in an outpatient setting. And then my interest in women with disabilities is my interest in intersectionality. That people aren't just a person with a disability, but they have a gender, they have an ethnicity, they have a religion, they have a socioeconomic status, etc. And my interest currently is really about integrating those different identities so that we no longer see disability as so salient that it overrides any other features of the person.
Well, that's very admirable. Well, that's wonderful to hear. I know that you're new to Second Life. What are your thoughts about the challenges and benefits of presenting within a virtual space?
Well, it was a little challenging to learn now that I'm more familiar with it.
Yeah,
Um, I, it's actually quite liberating. I first came in as a person who walked, and then I noticed that I was uncomfortable standing at a podium because in my professional role, I'm generally sitting in
right.
a wheelchair when I'm presenting, and it just felt more comfortable to me to be in the wheelchair as I'm presenting tomorrow. But I'm finding it really intriguing about how you make a site accessible across varying disabilities. We tend to think of accessibility in terms of wheelchairs, ramps, and curb cuts and things like that, but there's
Right.
so much more to it. And as an instructor, as a teacher of grad students, I'm interested in how this might translate into a more universal design in teaching.
Interesting. I know you had a little bit of difficulty just even getting in between us, but I
Yes,
think you're getting a hang of it now, right? I believe.
I'm getting the hang of it. Yes.
Well, that's good. That's good. You're picking it up real quick. Gentle, it looks like there is a pretty good lineup of speakers this year. In addition to Dr. Olkin's presentation, the schedule includes presenters from a wide range of established and credible organizations, everything from Microsoft Research India to Baylor College of Medicine. So, how do you typically decide who to invite as you put this event together every year?
Well, making a conference is about a 6 month event for
My
us.
goodness, wow.
So, about 6 months ago, I started reading research papers, and I've read several hundred research papers, and some of them are not really pertinent, and some are too dry, and some are very interesting, like Dr. Olkins. And so I typically pull out about 100 different research papers that I think would make good presentations within a theme. And I send out invitations to the authors, and I usually get about 5 to 10 people who respond. And that's how we decide.
That's great that they're actually have. And do most of these people have any experience in Second Life before they respond usually?
I'm sorry, Strawberry, I have trouble hearing you. Could
Oh,
you be
sorry. I
louder?
said I was just wondering if most of these people that you reach out to, if they're already experienced in Second Life.
Oh, no, no, no.
No.
Almost everyone is not experienced with virtual worlds at all. And I think that's why we have such a very low response rate. Because if you get an invitation saying, would you like to present at a conference on Mars? You're going to say, what?
Right.
Conference on Mars? I can't do that. And just, throw the invitation out. And I think if you're not familiar with virtual worlds, it's probably the same way. So our presenters are not only good presenters in general as professionals, but they're also very brave
Right.
because they're trying out presentation in a brand new venue to most of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. You must have a great onboarding program too.
We work hard at it.
I bet. So this year is the 30th anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disability Act. How has that important milestone integrated into your theme of this year's event? What's the theme, by the way, of this year's event?
The theme is a little complex, which made it difficult to make a nice logo. It's where have we been?
Uh-huh.
Where are we headed? How should we get there? And we try and make a pretty broad theme so that our presenters have a good choice of things that they might want to talk about within the theme. And this is a pretty broad theme. So we have people, for instance, we have a gentleman from the Southeast ADA Center who's going to be talking about the prehistory before the ADA was signed. How did the activists, and the different movements for disability rights impact the eventual signing of the ADA? So, for instance, the Capitol crawl, when people went to the U.S. National Capitol, got out of their wheelchairs and crawled up the steps to
Oh,
the building
wow.
to show how inaccessible our federal government was. That was a major event
Yeah.
that helped push President Bush into signing the ADA. So that was the where have we been? Where are we headed? I think that we need to look at where we are now. And so Dr. Olkin's research is a significant thing there.
Mhm.
We need still some big movements in terms of not just making things accessible, but making the culture accessible and accepting. And how should we get there? We've got people like Dr. Swaminathan, who is going to be giving us some information about how you can use different tools to make websites and possibly virtual worlds more accessible.
Oh.
We've got people who are going to be talking about various ways to move forward from where we are now. So that's how we address this very broad, sort of long timeline of looking at the ADA, not just looking at what was going on 30 years ago. Although we have one woman presenting who was actually out at the signing. She was
Oh,
on the White House
wow.
lawn when President Bush signed that bill.
And she'll be there tomorrow at the
She'll
conference?
be here tomorrow, and she'll be
Awesome.
telling us some memories of that time.
Okay, well, sorry, Dr. Olkin, were you about to say something?
Yeah, do you have time for me to jump in here?
Absolutely.
Um, I started college well before there were any laws in place or many laws in place in the 70s to really help out. And so with each new law, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, for example, with the Rehab Act, things got a bit easier in terms of physical access. And the ADA was a huge milestone for that. But what I'm talking about tomorrow is the more subtle things that laws can't address. We can't legislate attitudes.
Right.
And one of the interesting findings is that over a 10-year period, very recently, people's implicit bias, the unconscious bias that they hold towards disability, has not changed. And that's one of my interests in microaggressions is how do we affect behaviors and attitudes at a level that legislation can't address?
Right. So you'll be talking a little bit. Will you talk about that in your presentation as well?
Yes,
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully I can make it. I know that it's going to be, it starts, what time does it start, Gentle? Can you, tomorrow?
2:30 Pacific time.
Okay, great. Gentle, are you still there? I want to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that, okay, great. So I want to talk more actually about virtual ability. For those who aren't familiar with it, as you've been in Second Life for many years, can you actually tell us how many? And can you share an overview of what virtual ability is about and the role that it plays in Second Life?
Sure. We've been in Second Life since 2007, and we are a international cross-disability peer support community. International in that we have members from every continent except Antarctica.
Wow.
Cross-disability, meaning that our membership includes people with a variety of kinds of disabilities. So physical disabilities, mental disabilities, emotional disabilities, developmental disabilities, and sensory disabilities like deafness and blindness. Some people have more than one kind of disability. And we are about peer support. So even though we do have professionals in our community, we have a number of researchers and medical professionals in our community. They are not here as professionals, they are here as peer support. And then we are a community. We are a group of people with some common interests who are working together. And what we're trying to do is to assist other people with disabilities to come into Second Life. And I'm going to say this in parentheses, and other virtual worlds,
Mhm.
because virtual worlds serve a really important purpose for many of us with disabilities. I don't consider Second Life to be second to my physical life. It's an important part of that. So that's what the virtual ability community does. But there's another piece of virtual ability. Virtual Ability Inc. is a nonprofit corporation, and
Mhm.
that is what supports our work in Second Life. So we have those two pieces, the physical world part, which is the corporation, and the virtual world part, which is the community.
Interesting. So, what are some of the challenges that are faced by people with disabilities as they enter and explore online virtual worlds such as Second Life? Can you share
Oh boy.
can you share some of those of the adaptive technologies and or techniques that are typically used to make things more accessible?
Sure. Well, let's start with probably one of the simpler ones of physical disability. We have some people in our community who are completely paralyzed.
Hmm.
They cannot move from the neck down, or they're partially paralyzed and they can move one finger, or they can move just their right ankle.
Hmm.
How would you, I mean, most people who are not disabled use a keyboard to
Right,
access Second Life.
right.
They can't do that. So, a couple of different ways, a lot of different ways, if you're physically disabled, that you can access Second Life. You can use, you can type with your toes. We have people who do that.
Wow.
We have people who use a trackball with their foot. We have people who control their computer by sipping and puffing on a straw like device. We have people who have an on screen keyboard and they have a laser mounted on top of their computer that looks at their eyes, and they gaze at the on screen keyboard. And when their eyes rest on a letter, that letter is typed.
Wow.
So for people with physical disabilities, any part of you that can move can be used to control Second Life.
That's fascinating to learn
We have
about.
people who are completely deaf. That's one of the sensory things.
Right.
And they actually, there was a large deaf community in Second Life at the very start of Second Life because there was no voice, because it was a world
Right,
all
right.
in text. And quite a few of them actually left when voice was initiated, but we've now made sure that people with deaf are welcome. And then we have people in our community who are completely blind. And just as blind people access the internet using a screen reader, they can also use that screen reader to access the code for Second Life and have it read aloud to you. And it'll say, there's a kitten 3 meters to your left or to your west, and there's a chair 2.5 meters to your north, and there's an avatar named Strawberry Linden 4 meters to your northeast. So they get an audio description of their environment. And that's very much, if you're as old as I am, you may remember text muds and moos. And that's what their experience of Second Life is like. And all of these people find what Dr. Olkin found, which is that this is a very free environment for most of us. I use a motorized wheelchair in the physical world because I have multiple sclerosis. But in here, you'll notice my avatar walks.
Right.
I like to be able to think about walking. When I dream of myself, I don't dream of myself in a wheelchair. I dream of myself walking. And so my avatar is an extension of my body.
Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Olkin. You wanted to
I
add?
was just going to say, it sounds like I'm going to have to learn the metric system. Everything is done in meters.
Yes.
Yes, this is true.
Well, that is U.S. law. According to the U.S. law, we're supposed to be using the metric system, but we don't do that. But that's a whole nother discussion.
It's a different topic for a different day. That's actually something I learned from virtual ability is for people who are blind, it's so important for creators to write in the descriptions fields of the objects what they are so they get that information. I actually learned that from you guys. You never think about these things. So for somebody watching our stream right now who wants to learn more, where should they go for help? Is the virtual ability website a good starting point? Are there other web resources you might recommend, or any special Second Life viewers or technologies, for example, that you
Sure.
recommend?
At Second Life, at virtualability.org,
Hmm.
you will find a button to join. And instead of having technical specifications for your computer, which is very important to look at, and that's available on the secondlife.com website,
Hmm.
we have functional specifications for you. You have to be able to hold down keys on opposite sides of the keyboard, which might be a problem if you only have one functional arm. But there are technologies available that will help you to do all of those things. So we will work with your technology. So far, we have never had a person we could not figure out how to accommodate. Sometimes it's not ideal, but we've accommodated. There's a blind person who accesses Second Life using Braille
Wow.
instead of sound. It's her preferred method.
Hmm.
There is one person I know of who is both deaf and blind. So these people can be accommodated. The blind people, however, need to use a different viewer. Neither the Linden viewer nor Firestorm are accessible to screen readers. So they use a special viewer called Radagast. But again, we've been able to figure out ways to accommodate their needs.
That's so admirable, and I just can't believe like the wide range of technologies that you guys offer and the assistance that you guys offer. So I do want to mention to the viewers that if they look in the description of the video, I have links to virtual ability. I have a link to more information about Dr. Olkin if you want to learn more about it, and of course the conference tomorrow. I don't have any more questions. I was hoping to get a tour of virtual ability, but I did want to give Dr. Olkin a chance if she wants to add anything else before we I know she has to go. She can't stay with us for
Yeah,
too long.
it's okay. So, one of the things I'm very proud about my institution is that we've graduated over 85 students with disabilities to become clinical psychologists.
Oh, wow.
But one of the things I loved about virtual ability is the freedom I had to communicate with people with various disabilities. The other day, there was somebody with autism, there was another person who was deaf, and it was all very seamless in how we were communicating. And I loved that, and I wish I could do that with all of my students with various disabilities.
Yeah, they have a lot of great Great options there. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Olkin, for joining us today. I know
Thank
you
you.
have to leave us now, but I look forward to the presentation tomorrow. Good luck on that. And Gentle, will you take me over to Virtual Ability? We're going to head over to where the conference will be first.
Yes,
Um,
to.
okay, so we will
I'd
see
like to
you.
say goodbye to Dr. Olkin,
Yes.
and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Bye.
Olkin. Take care. So I'm going to stand, Gentle. Hopefully I won't stand. Oh, I'm going to end up on the table, aren't I?
And should I teleport you?
Sure, if you can teleport me, or I think I have the location here. We're going to the auditorium.
The
Yeah,
Sojourner
so
Auditorium on
I'm
Virtual Ability Island.
perfect. I'm just gonna take that over. Take care, Dr. Olgan. When we land there, we're gonna be meeting Emmy Capolini, and I forgot. Oh, where am I? I think I ended up somewhere else. You
Oh,
might
you're in
have.
the right place.
Oh, am I? Okay. I think my camera was
Yep.
just somewhere else. There we go. Here I am.
I see you. We're to your right.
Perfect. There you are. Hi, Emmy. Emmy, can you hear
Hi.
us?
Yes.
How are you? So, Emmy, please forgive me. I forgot what your title is with Virtual Ability. Can you tell us what your title is and what you do at Virtual Ability for the viewers?
Sure. I'm the Vice President of Development, and what that means is I work with our clients because um, our model for our nonprofit is a little bit different than how other people work. Uh, we don't um, we don't ask for donations from our members.
Hmm.
We um, use our knowledge to bring people that are doing research into Second Life, and we help them by creating the environment for them to use. So that's what I do. I create the environment that they use in Second Life, and then people can do disability research or any kind of research. So that's how we raise money to support what we do here in Second Life. We are a real life nonprofit, and we're able to do research projects. So
Awesome. So I'm just
yeah,
camming around a little bit. Again,
alrighty,
this is where the conference will be. I believe this is their auditorium. There's a sign here, and you get a little souvenir. I just noticed right behind me.
that's
You
right.
can click
One of our
for.
members made that. Yeah,
That's
it's
so
very nice.
cute. You get a little
Yeah,
event tag. So show me around the auditorium a little bit. And I know you have a lot of features here for people with disabilities. Can you give us
right.
some examples of that? So,
Absolutely. Well, the auditorium was created by a team of from various disability groups in Second Life and some of our own team members. So there's lots of folks that came together to make this possible.
mhm,
Um, the the design itself, we used a universal design, which is basically using it's creating environments or products that are so all people can use them. So
okay.
we don't have disability signs here because we don't need them. So, for example, we have ramps
Yeah, I just noticed there's no
instead of no stairs here.
stairs. Yeah.
So, although a wheelchair can go up and down stairs just fine,
Hmm.
we do it out of respect. So that's that's one thing. But the universal design, I think um, you guys mentioned it earlier, like a curb cut is called a universal design, but it also benefits people that have strollers or have rolling luggage.
Hmm.
So that's an example of a universal design that benefits everyone. And we wanted to do that here as well. So Gentle is showing, she's in a wheelchair
Okay.
here in Second Life, which
Hmm.
there are available. So we wanted to make it so that if somebody was in a wheelchair, they could come in the auditorium and they could sit at the end of the aisle with a friend. Normally
Oh,
in
right.
real life, you would be sitting, somebody in a wheelchair would sit in the back row. Well, we didn't want that. We wanted to make everyone feel welcome here. So you can sit at the end of the row.
Hmm.
And if you have a wheelchair, the aisles are wide enough so you can roll across and not roll across someone's toes.
Right.
So, so it's little things like that that we wanted to make people feel welcome here. So you could have a seat anywhere and sit with a friend rather than sitting in the back by yourself.
There was something else that Gentle mentioned about your seating numbers.
Right.
How does
Well,
that work?
each cushion, you see, there's cushions on each of the benches, and each cushion is individually numbered. And as Gentle was talking about previously, people that use Radagast are going to see those numbers, and they can ask one of our greeters to help them find, find a numbered cushion that is not used. And so they'll be able to, a greeter can say, oh, cushion number 5 is available, so they can search for cushion number 5 and go sit there. So it
Wonderful.
really makes it easier for them to do that. And we number all of our cushions and seats on the island that way. We have cabanas that have, it's a classroom, and we do the same over there.
Wonderful.
Our color scheme is a little bit interesting. We have different colors on each level, so you know when you're changing, you're on the next aisle. So that's one thing. The other thing most people probably wouldn't notice is, they notice the water, but we have it for a very specific reason, and that is it really is soothing to people with anxiety, or if there's something, some sort of content that may be upsetting to them, they can look at the water and self-soothe that way. So that's another feature here.
I don't have my sounds on. Do you also have a water sound as well?
Yes,
All
there
right.
is a water sound. Yes. And if you're sitting in the front row, you can splash your toes in the water.
Oh, that's
So,
cute. Love that.
yes, I know.
Can I grab a
So,
front seat tomorrow?
well, some of them are reserved, but yes,
Okay.
if you sit on the left, we'll let you sit over there. We'll let you splash your toes in the water.
Looking forward to it.
That's right.
This is wonderful.
Another thing that we want to remind everybody is to name their objects. When you
Right.
res a prim in Second Life, it's automatically named object. So, so it's really important for our blind viewers to be able to see, to hear what's actually named. If you name everything tree, then it makes it a little bit difficult for them to imagine what's around them. So that's why it's so nice if creators make their objects modifiable, so that we can rename the cushions or the trees or whatever we want to describe to other folks. So that's helpful as well.
All these little things that I didn't even know that before. Naming the objects is so important for people, which is great to learn about.
Well, Strawberry, there are different kinds of solutions to accessibility. Part of it is design, which is what Emmy has just been talking about.
Right.
There are also technical solutions for accessibility. So, for instance, we have our presenters, if they are able to do so, create a speakeasy, which means they put the text that they're going to say into this tool in World, and then it's like a teleprompter. They click it, and the sentence comes up and they read it just like a regular teleprompter, but that sentence also appears in the local chat. So deaf people are able to see what the speaker is reading aloud in real time. So we also ask them to include descriptions of visuals on the slide, because blind people obviously are not going to see the slides. They may be able to hear the speaker.
Right.
They can also access the script in Second Life, the text in Second Life, and they can have that read aloud, but they can't see the slide. So we have that description put into the speakeasy. When videos are shown, we like to have them captioned. Sometimes we can't do that.
Right.
And then we will write out a description of the video, and we can also write the text. And we also have text transcripts available afterwards.
A lot of great.
Emmy was talking about universal design, and what that means is that the design is not just wonderful for people with disabilities, but it's good for other people too. So for instance, if your first language is not English, it's much harder in your mind to translate someone's spoken words than it is to translate the written words in most cases. So the text not only benefits deaf people, but also people whose first language isn't English.
Right.
And the fact that the text in Second Life is scrollable, that you can scroll up and see what came before, that really helps people with attention disorders. So it helps another kind of disability, not just the deaf people. But it also helps people with other sorts of attention problems. Like, for instance, if you have your kids home because they're not in school and they're supposed to be doing their homework and you have to be monitoring them while you're trying to be in a conference in Second Life, you can scroll back and see what you missed.
Especially
But
these days.
to me, probably the most important and the most interesting kind of accessibility solution are people. We have found that our community, people, are the ones who make the most difference in terms of accessibility. So, for instance, we have people who are greeters at all of our big events. Those greeters, as Emmy was saying, help the blind people to find the numbered cushion that is open, so they can sit without fear of sitting on someone's lap. The greeters also can give hints about proper behavior to people with behavior disorders, or people who just, they're not disabled, but they just have never been at a professional conference before and they don't know appropriate behavior. So the greeters are people who provide accessibility to people in the audiences. We also have a tradition in our presentations of doing voice and text simultaneously, so that we have the same sort of input in different modalities, so that different people can get that with whatever senses they have that are still functioning. But where I'm sitting now, these two seats are reserved for two very important people. These are our transcriptionists, and these are women who are very good typists. And when our speakers are, for instance, answering questions during Q&A, the transcriptionists type out the gist of what they're saying in real time. So again, even though the speakers have not pre-prepared their answers for the Q&A, their spoken answers are put into text, and deaf people can know what's going on in real time. So these are some of the ways that people act as accessibility solutions. And basically, we have to provide a variety of accessibility solutions because our community includes people with so many different types of disabilities.
Very, very thoughtful. You guys have really thought about every aspect of this, which is wonderful. I just want to kind of tell the viewers one more time again, the conference is tomorrow. And what is the timing that it starts in the morning, Gentle?
It starts at 7 a.m.
Okay,
because that our first presenter is from India,
right,
and that would be 7:30 p.m. in his time.
right.
So we have early sessions for people in Asia.
Hmm.
We have a little bit later sessions for people in Europe, and then for people in North and South America, we take up the rest of the conference. Actually, our last presenter is Disabled D Character here, and he is from Brazil.
Oh, wonderful. So when is the last presentation? So it's pretty
It
much going
starts
the
at
whole
4.
day. 4.
The last one starts at 4.
Okay, so it's pretty much the
SLT.
whole day, which is great. This is all, yes, Pacific time, Second Life time for those viewers that are watching and want to join. I mean, did you want to show us more around the island? I know you have more than just this auditorium. We have still about, 10, 15 minutes if you want to show us anything else. I don't know if you were prepared for that. Am I putting you on the spot?
You are, you are.
Okay.
Well, we have lots of options here. We have a couple of cabanas for classrooms. So
Mm-hmm.
we have, discussions, or we have presenters. And if we're having a smaller group, we'll meet in a little more intimate area. So we could walk over there.
Sure. Gentle, is there anything that you wanted to show specifically as well? I want to.
Oh, I'd like to show you Health Info Island, but
Oh,
that's
right. We were going to go to Health Info. I forgot about that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
Emmy's got some good things
Yeah,
to show
it's
you.
Okay.
it's right by the cabanas. It's on the way. So that's
Perfect.
perfect.
Let's do that. So there's
Oh,
lots to see here. Again, the destination links again, are in the description of the YouTube video. There's a link for virtual ability and there's a link for the conference, which will take you directly to that auditorium. I believe the virtual ability destination link brings you to this spot, perhaps. This is the center of it all?
No, this isn't the center.
Okay.
The Welcome Center is behind us.
Okay.
But the calendar here, I was going to point out, the calendar to my left will
Mm-hmm.
show you the
Oh,
different events
this is for
that are,
tomorrow. Perfect.
right, that's for tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
Let me just focus
so
on
that's
that
helpful.
for a second. You guys can see
Yeah,
all of the speakers that are coming tomorrow, and then you have some more events on the 11th and on the 13th as well. Wonderful.
yeah,
Okay, so where are we headed?
yeah.
I'm just going to
So
follow you.
now,
Mm-hmm.
to the left and to the right are the two cabanas that we have events, and across the bridge here, it will take us to Health Info Island. So Alice, Gentle, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's go, Gentle.
I'm actually going to not walk because I want to go to the other side of the island and we'll just take our time.
Okay.
So I teleport you, Strawberry. Is that okay?
Perfect. Thank you. While you're doing that, I'm just going to look at the schedule again because I think there's a confusion going on in the YouTube chat. All the timings listed are Pacific time, which are Second Life time, the timing that you
Right.
see at the top of your viewer. So all of these timings are Pacific Second Life time. I want to make sure there's no confusion about time zones. Gotta love time zones. What can you do?
That's right. Yes,
Oh yeah. Time zones are tricky, believe
that's
me.
right. We do have a orientation path here too. If somebody needs a really in-depth
Mhm.
way to learn how to use Second Life, um, it's over on the other side of the island. But a lot of folks will bring people here that need a little more description about how to do things.
Right.
So, sometimes you kind of the description at the Linden path is, not quite as in depth. So
Mhm.
if you need some more help, you can pop over here and take a look.
Wonderful. And of course, if they come by tomorrow, there will be lots of people around to help them out, show them
Right,
around
Sure.
possibly. So Gentle has teleported me to Health Info Island.
right. And this is
Mhm.
one of our islands that is public and it is for education. We have 8 of these poster sets around the island.
Mhm.
This is my favorite one. These 8 this month are all about things related to the conference. So this particular poster set is about what do you call people with disabilities? And that's a sort of intriguing question because there have been a lot of words that have been used about people with disabilities, and not all of them are very nice. But I
Mhm.
wanted to show you how we make these accessible. So if you would please click this first poster
I just
and
did.
notice what you get.
I got a
You
note
get
card.
the
I'm going to show it on the live stream. Okay.
right?
Mhm.
And the note card actually describes all of the posters in the entire exhibit. People who are blind can read note cards. They
Oh.
cannot see posters.
Ah.
So our blind people know to come and look for the first poster in each one of these sets,
Mhm.
and they can get that note card. Now, again, this is universal design, like Emmy talked about. A lot of us don't really remember when we go through a whole exhibit, all of the stuff that's in the exhibit.
Mhm.
And so having a note card that you can refer back to is very helpful.
Right.
So it's not just useful for blind people.
Useful for me too. I have a bad memory.
Yeah, some of us have worse memories than others. So, so if you would like to look at some of these posters,
I'm going to cam into each one individually so people
yes,
can see on the stream.
people who are sighted can obviously see the poster, but then if you click the poster, you will get additional information. And the nice thing about Second Life is
Mhm.
if we put a URL to a reference document or
Mhm.
to a web page into the click text, then that's live
Then
in
it
Second
links
Life.
it, right?
So people can click that and then it will open a window in their browser. So we can provide the evidence base for the information that we provide, or we can provide more in-depth information that you can put on a poster. But
Right.
this display talks about the same sort of thing that we're talking about in the conference. What was disability like in the past? Well, in some cultures, people with disabilities were killed. They were lesser than human, so they were left out as babies, left on the mountainside for the wolves to eat. when we became a little more humane as culture, we would keep people with disabilities alive, but we would put them in the attic and nobody would see them. So that is in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we realize that the stereotyping and the patronization took away the agency of people with disabilities. We were not treated as fully human. We were not treated as members of the society within which we live. And so that is what the disability movement was all about. So in the present, there's legislation, activism. There is increased awareness, but as Dr. Olken was saying, we need more. We could always use more. And we want to be just regular people. So in the future, what we need is to address things like transportation, healthcare, housing, employment, education. And so that is an important thing for us to remember as we move forwards. And what does this have to do with what you call people with disabilities? Well, one of the words that is a taboo
Yes.
is the R word.
Yeah.
We used to call it retard.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a word that we do not use anymore. It is a stereotypical word. It has a negative, pejorative feel to it. And so we want to eliminate that kind of language that stereotypes people and puts them down. That's more of a macroaggression than a microaggression.
For sure. For sure.
And so what we do is we want to focus on the person. We want to have person first language. So you're not a person, you're not well, that's not true for all of them, because amputees, you can call them amputees, but you might call a person with cerebral palsy, you wouldn't call them a palsied person. You call them a person with cerebral palsy. You put the person first, and that's really important. And then the other thing is, if it's not important to mention the disability, don't mention it.
Right.
So, for instance, when I was working for a project in the federal government, I worked for a long time, and I was respected for what I did by people all over the country. And then once they found out that I was in a wheelchair, they thought they needed to treat me differently, which is sort of strange because I was still exactly the same person. I did not need to be pitied. My disability is not something that needs to be overcome. And I'm not a person who suffers with it. I'm a person who deals with it. And it's not a problem for me. My wheelchair is a tool. It's not a problem. And I love this quote. The difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. So what do you call a person with a disability? You call them your friend. You call them your neighbor. You call them your partner. You call them your student. Whatever.
I love it. This is wonderful. How can people access this Health Info Island? Is there a direct link from your Virtual Ability Island?
I believe there is, and it's also connected by a bridge. You could have walked over.
Oh, right. Okay, I see. I'm just going to cam out a little bit so people can see.
Yeah.
All right, that's wonderful. This is great.
And this is just one of 8 exhibits related to the conference.
Yeah, and Gentle changes the exhibits every month. So there's great content here every single month. It's fabulous.
This is awesome. This is so wonderful. Thank you so much, Emmy and Gentle. I really appreciate you taking the time to not only, talk about the conference, but do everything that you guys do here in this community. And hopefully it inspires others to volunteer and help out. I believe if they do want to get involved with Virtual Ability, they can find information about that. Do you guys have volunteering options or anything like that available on your website?
Oh, sure. Yeah, have them contact us. We'd love to hear from them.
Wonderful.
One of the easiest ways to help us out is to use Amazon Smile.
Oh, that's good. You guys are on there, Virtual Ability?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I use that every time. I didn't know that. Okay, wonderful. Good to know. So I just wanted, I'm going to try kind of wrap up the show, but I wanted to give you guys another minute to say anything else that you guys want to say to the viewers. Gentle, do you want to, anything else you want to add?
Well, we certainly would like to invite everyone to visit us tomorrow and learn from our presenters.
Sounds like it's going to be really informative, which is great. And Emmy, thank you so much. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us and featuring virtualability. And we love to, if people have questions about how to name objects or what's going to be appropriate, we also have members that would be happy to talk with them. We have blind members that
Oh,
would be happy to talk with creators to make things more accessible. Or if you want to, if it's like somebody has a game that they want to make more accessible to blind people, we're always looking for more games. So those kind of things, if you're trying to make your items more accessible, we're happy to help.
that's amazing. That's really good to know. So I hope creators reach out. And again, if you want to get more involved with Virtual Ability, check out their website. I have all the links in the description of the video. I will add their YouTube channel in the description after the show so you guys can watch the live streams if you're not able to make it. Once again, a big thank you to Dr. Olkin, to Gentle, and to Emmy for coming on today. And remember, the conference starts tomorrow at Virtual Ability. Starts at, I believe she said it was 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m.
7.
Pacific time. 7, great. 7 a.m. Pacific time. Keep an eye on the Second Life community blogs for more information about LabGab and our future shows. I have a really great show coming next week with Indiecade, but it's not going to be on Friday. It's going to be on Thursday, so keep that in mind. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and have a great weekend. Take care, everyone. Stay home, stay safe, stay virtual.
Thank you, Strawberry. Bye.